I worked as a flight attendant for a few years when I decided to take an extended sabbatical from college. There were a handful of let's not meet situations I encountered, but one in particular still makes my skin crawl more than any other. I was born and raised in Texas, but had moved to New York when I turned 21. So when I found out at the beginning of the week-long trip that I would have a couple overnights in Austin, I was super excited to go to my home state for a few days. My brother lived just north of the city, and we planned to hang out and go to dinner the night I arrived when he got off work. And the following days, we were going to meet up with our dad, who lived about an hour away. So I get to the hotel downtown. The crew and I check in, and then we head off to our rooms. Short elevator ride, and I get to mine, where not even 5 minutes later there's a loud, hard knock on my door. It was only 1 or 2 p.m., and I hadn't called my brother or dad to let them know that I was in town yet, so they wouldn't know what room. I assumed it was maybe one of my crewmates, so I headed to the door. Before even making it to the door, however, a loud, male's voice on the other side boomed. The front desk sent me about the bathroom problem you called in. Before trying to open the door. Unlock the door and open up, miss. I need in, now. I froze in my tracks. I hadn't even been in the bathroom yet alone called anyone at the front desk. I'm a petite chick, and while I take no shit from anyone despite my size, I still err on the side of caution. Slowly inching towards the door to look out the peephole, all I could tell was that this man on the other side was at least 6 feet tall and easily over double my weight. No way in hell I was gonna unlock the door. I responded to the guy, telling him that he must have the wrong room. He continued pounding on the door while constantly turning the handle, telling me no, he needed in and was getting into the room one way or another. I panicked, but thankfully had the sense to grab my phone and call the front desk. The concierge confirmed that they had neither sent anyone to my room nor had they received a call about a bathroom. The entire time, this fucking guy was still determined to get into my room, pounding and yelling. Lucky for me, the front desk had sent security to my floor. When the security officers stepped off the elevator a few seconds later, I could hear them in the hall approaching the guy and ask who he was, what he was doing, and telling him that he needed to leave the hotel. He immediately got hostile and aggressive towards them, and the front desk clerk that I was still on the phone with tells me that the police have been called and are on their way. In the meantime, I'm trapped in my room, scared shitless. Long story short, the cops showed up pretty quickly and managed to arrest the guy for trespassing and criminal menacing or some shit. I later found out that the guy was also wanted in connection of a string of break-ins and violent sexual assaults in Austin. He had seen me and stalked me from the minute I entered the hotel lobby. Apparently, I was exactly his type of victim. Nothing else happened after that, but it still rattled the fuck out of me for the rest of my stay in that hotel. I've actually had a lot of very creepy encounters, but I wanted to submit this one first. It was my 21st birthday, so 3 of my best friends and I celebrated with a trip to NYC. 2 of my friends, Lana and Molly, didn't get along that well. The third, and this is my best friend to this day, Elle. My birthday is in December, so it was excruciating cold at this time of the trip. We were all staying in the same hotel room, can't remember the name. One night, I was pretty tired and ended up going back to the hotel a bit earlier. I didn't want to ruin my friend's time, and I was cool with them staying out later and going to a club. I also wanted to go back to the hotel because I was honestly emotionally drained. Throughout the day, Lana and Molly had been arguing on and off. Not really about anything huge, but just nitpicking because they presumably had very opposite personalities. I don't like drama, and being caught in the middle of it was getting annoying, so I really wanted to be by myself. So I'm back at the hotel, talking to my boyfriend at the time. 20 minutes in, I get a second call from Molly. I answer and she's crying. She was always pretty dramatic, but of course, I was concerned. Conversation went something like this. Lana is a fucking bitch. I'm coming back to the hotel to hang out with you. Are you okay? What happened? We got into a fight in the cab, and I just don't want to deal with her. I'm heading back now. Okay, be safe. When will you be here? In like 10 minutes. I'm getting a cab now. Okay, see you soon. We can talk when you get here. I hang up the phone with my boyfriend, telling him that I'm gonna hang out with her. She comes in a few minutes later and tells me about the fight. I can't even really remember what they fought about, but most likely it was petty or stupid. But we talked for a bit, and I told her we should try to get some rest. It had been a long day, and I was over the drama of that day, so we did. When Elle and Lana come back to the hotel about an hour later, Lana is pissed drunk. She comes in stumbling, yelling obscenities at Molly that I couldn't make out. Molly said something calmly, but to oppose her. Lana got really mad and kicked my suitcase really hard into the wall. This obviously pissed me off. It was one thing to be upset, but to damage other people's belongings is definitely not okay. I had enough and wanted to leave. One of my best friends, who wasn't able to come, had a sister who lived in Queens. Her family is like my family, so I texted her, telling her the situation and asked if I could come stay with her for the night. She said of course, so I snatched my suitcase and headed towards the elevator. It was slow, so I was waiting there for a few minutes. Moments later, Molly came bursting out of the room. I'm coming with you. No, I want to be alone. I'm sorry I ruined your birthday. I want to come with you. I don't want to be around Lana all night. She's a fucking bitch. Fine, whatever. The elevator opens up and we head to the lobby. It's around 2 a.m. at this time, and given that New York City is always bustling, I was surprised to see that there were virtually no hotel guests in the lobby. There was one man at the front desk and another hotel staff member standing around. It was really cold outside, so I wanted someone to hail a cab for me. I asked the front desk if he could have someone do it for me, and he called the other man over and asked. The other man was pretty tall, maybe 6 feet at least. Not overweight, but stockier for sure. He had a very short buzzed haircut and the most piercing blue eyes, but not the type that are kind. They seemed completely off, and I remember thinking all of this before he even opened his mouth to speak to me. Where are you going? He asked in a probably Russian accent. Even his voice seemed cold, like it lacked warmth or friendliness. I kind of choked on my words. We're going to Queens. He paused. He moved closer to me and got his face up in mine. I'm about 5'4", so he definitely was bending over a bit to get eerily close to me. To put in perspective how close he was, we could have easily kissed if he moved about an inch closer. Then he asked, "Is it just the two? Alone?" I said, yes, as I tried to move backwards a bit to create some distance. He literally stared into my eyes for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 5 seconds. Then he just smiled. I remember feeling so creeped out and was just kind of frozen. In my gut, I knew something was off. I looked at my friend, who was obviously uncomfortable as well. It was like she was trying to tell me with her eyes that this man gave her the creeps too. Finally, he backed away from me. Stay right there. He then whipped his phone out and called someone. He was speaking Russian, so I didn't know what he said. The whole time, his eyes stayed on me and my friend, and I remember just feeling paralyzed. I was thinking, do we just run? I kept looking back at the glass doors of the hotel entrance, hoping that by a miracle, a cab would drive by so we could just leave. He got off his phone after about a minute and said, "Someone's coming, don't worry." A few minutes later, another man entered the hotel. He wasn't dressed like a hotel staff member at all, which was my biggest red flag. Then he started speaking with the creepy Russian man. They kept nodding while speaking to each other, while looking back at each other and then at my friend and me. The man with the creepy eyes looked at us and said, "He'll take you where you need to go." What? Go with him. He will take you. Just then, I kid you not, I look back at the doors and see a cab slowly inching up our street in traffic. "Oh, it's okay. I see a cab right there. We're just gonna take that. Thanks," as I grabbed Molly's hand and began running out of the hotel to get in the cab. As soon as we get into the cab, we both look at each other and expressed our fears for what just happened. We both were really scared of the man and agreed that we thought something was incredibly off about the men and the encounter. The first thing that came to my mind was maybe they were a part of a human trafficking ring. When I think back to the night, I always thank God for that cab. It came just at the right time. I'll never know for sure what the man's intentions were. Since then, I've lived in New York and visited again many times, and no other hotel staff member has ever offered to personally drive me somewhere. I don't know what would have happened if we had gone with that man, but I have a feeling it would not be where we wanted to go. So this is my first post. What I'm about to say happened 2 years ago. I was only 10. Even my parents don't know about what happened, but hanging here and reading other people's stories made me feel the urge to share mine as well. For context, my father, mother, little sister, and me were in China, in a luxury hostel. The entrance from the building itself, which you had to take an elevator to access the big park. From this park, you would have to walk 3 or 4 minutes to arrive at the front of the 30th floor building. It's designed to contain one really big suite per floor. So when taking the lift, you scan your card, and it will automatically bring you to the floor associated to it. So the third day on our trip, my parents decide to go on a date together, leaving me and my sister alone in the suite. They left us some cash so we could order some takeaway food. So I ordered some noodles and waited. When someone finally called to say that the food was there, I went to search for the food. That's when I did my first big mistake. I didn't close the front door, thinking no one could come here, and I wouldn't be able to open it since I would have a lot of things in my hand. I called the lift and waited, way too long. Then it was finally here. Somebody was in it. I politely said, "Hello," but he didn't answer. He was wearing a red sweater and Adidas jogging pants. I got in, pushed the 0 button, and the man exited the elevator. The door closed when I finally realized my second big mistake. Why the hell did he want out? He shouldn't, since there wasn't any other rooms except for my family's. That's when I started to panic. I tried to stop the lift, but it wouldn't stop. So as soon as I arrived to the ground floor, I immediately went back to my room's floor. The front door was wide open, and the absence of noise made me feel uncomfortable. Assuming that my sister had either been caught or she was hiding, I went for the second option because the man was taller than me, which meant his footsteps must have sounded heavier than mine on the ground, so I believed my sister's intelligence to figure it out. I found her hiding behind one of the sofas, crying. She told me that the man was searching in our luggage for valuable items. We played hide and seek with him for almost 30 minutes. The room was really big. I finally went into the room. I noticed that my Nintendo Switch had vanished and called the reception to send some security guys to arrest the man. Everything went pretty smoothly, and the man turned out to be the son of someone who lived here. One creepy thing, he had a knife on him coming from the kitchen of our suite, showing that he didn't just want some goods. So creepy man in our hostel, let's not meet. I was staying at a hotel with my Portuguese water dog. I had her outside on a leash for a potty break. Creepy guy follows us on the walk but keeps his distance. I take her to the grass area to potty and he stands there and glares at us. My dog backs into me, facing the creepy guy, growling. We go into our room, and instead of sleeping on the bed with me, she slept by the front door all night. Never saw him again, and I was there for a week. I've always said that dogs can sense danger, and I know that she sensed it from him. So my mom went to Canada on a spur-of-the-moment trip with her friend yesterday. We lived close enough to drive there. When she got there, she noticed that the Airbnb host had a lot of art on the wall. I started receiving some pictures from her of the walls, and they are covered in professionally framed pictures of hentai. They are pictures of girls crying while having things shoved inside of them, girls gagged with duct tape, girls crying while having things shoved down their throats, and girls just screaming and being, you know. She also found real-life photos of girls tied up from different angles. They look more like BDSM sessions than actual evidence of a crime, so there's nothing to call the police over, but my mom was pretty horrified. She has PTSD from some childhood trauma that I'm not going to elaborate on, but suffice to say, this was pretty unsettling to her. Luckily, the room had a deadbolt on the door. Still, she didn't get much sleep. This happened in early 2017. I was a 23-year-old girl and I had just finished college. The field I studied was not huge in my area, so I decided to leave and move to the biggest city in my country to make a post-graduation course. As I was still unemployed, I decided I would wait to make a long-term rental contract, worrying about a bad commute to work. In the first couple months, I was switching from Airbnbs and hostels all the time. I was already tired of this. I decided that this would be my last move, and then, with or without a job, I would settle. I was already running out of money and decided to stay in a dorm in a hostel next to where I was taking classes. Sharing a bedroom isn't a problem during a trip, but when you are living somewhere, trying to create a routine and have some privacy, sharing a bedroom with complete strangers just sucks. I shared this dorm with 3 guys, but my bad encounter is not with any of them. They were nice, apart from the one snoring so bad at night, no biggie. In another dorm, however, was the creepiest person I've ever seen. He was in his mid-30s and not traveling. He was a native from the city we were in, and was using the hostel as a new house, since his parents kicked him out of theirs. He introduced himself and tried to be nice and flirty with me. I was polite initially, but declined his advancements. He started following me all day long inside the hostel. Anywhere I went, he would show up in less than 5 minutes. On my second day there, I left the hostel to go to a job interview, and by the time I arrived late at night, he sat alone on the front stairs waiting for me. He told me this like it was the most natural thing on earth. He would buy me snacks, ask me out, try to get information about my personal life, while I had already made it clear of my lack of interest in this friendship. All of this happened in 3 days. I was already exhausted of his presence, but what I didn't know is that it could get a lot worse. As soon as one of the guys that I was sharing the dorm with left, he asked the hostel staff to switch rooms and stay in the same one as me. Obviously, he didn't tell me this. So imagine how surprised and disgusted I was when I saw him coming in the dorm with all his belongings. I was so scared of his presence that I slept wearing jeans to avoid any advantage he could take from me while I was sleeping. The situation had exponentially went worse and I couldn't handle it anymore. While I was packing, this guy showed up, noticed what I was doing and started to cry, asking me not to leave him. Then, to make things even more creepy and disgusting, he told me that he missed seeing my face while I was sleeping, and thank God he had taken photos. I was trying my best to be chill about his behavior, but I just lost it when he told me he had taken pictures of me while I was sleeping. I snatched his phone from his hand, asked him to see the pictures, and deleted them all. There were a bunch of photos of me sleeping the night before. I left the hostel, and I regret not reporting him to the staff. I'm pretty sure they would have helped me, but I was too exhausted from the whole situation that I didn't even think about it at the time. Last summer I was working in Florida. I'm from Canada, but I got to work at Walt Disney World as a summer job. It was one of the most fun experiences that I've ever had, and I spent most of my summer on the Disney property. One day though, the Adventure Zone graphic novel was released, and I had to get my hands on it. The only place I could get a copy was at a Barnes & Noble, and the only way I could get there was taking the bus to Walmart, then walking like an hour. It was my day off, so I figured, might as well. Getting to Barnes & Noble was fine, but on the way back to the Walmart bus stop, I had walked past this parking lot. As I was passing the parking lot, someone beeped their horn at me. I stopped to look over because I thought it might be one of my Disney coworkers. A few of them had cars. A guy in a suit stepped out of his car and waved at me. He said hello, and I, being startled and trying to figure out if I knew him, responded, "Bad idea." He immediately complimented me on my appearance and asked where I was working. He also said he could give me a ride back to wherever I was going. I was freaked out, but my impulse to not be rude was dangerously strong, and I told him I wasn't interested and I liked taking the bus. He laughed and said that if I was interested, he could drive me home and get me a job at his hotel where he worked. For some reason, despite being pretty upset at this point, I kept talking to him and told him the truth, that I couldn't work anywhere other than the company that sponsored my visa. He laughed a second time and told me the visa wouldn't be a problem. It was at that point that my survival instincts finally overrode my friendliness instincts, and I hurriedly told him, "No thank you, I'm moving back to Canada, goodbye," before booking it into Walmart. In Walmart, I grabbed a couple of things and went to cash out, still freaked out. I tried to talk to the employee who was cashing me out so that maybe she could contact someone about the man. For all I knew, this could be some sort of sex trafficking scheme. I don't know. Unfortunately, that wasn't much better. She was extremely dismissive. She made a couple jokes saying things like, "Well, was he cute at least? Did you want to ride home?" and laughing. I didn't cry or anything, but I could feel my face turning red as I felt so patronized over something that had me really upset. Thankfully, the woman behind me in line asked if I was okay and tried to tell the clerk that I obviously wasn't trying to joke around, but she still didn't seem to care much. Once I got outside, I was thankful that there was other Disney cast members at the bus stop. I didn't talk to any of them, but at least I didn't feel as vulnerable. So, Walmart parking lot guy, I hope next time I go to Florida we don't meet. I don't want to work in a hotel with you. And Walmart clerk, I don't particularly feel like ever meeting you again either.